Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another. This is a this or that, a this versus that, brought to us by virtue of what do we call it? End of season, where manufacturers go to their retailers, and then all of a sudden you notice everybody's got everything on sale. Every instance of that particular item, as in this case, this particular item, every case of this particular item went on sale all at once. They were just on sale everywhere. $275. This is Ruby. She is an Element trail runner, and they were blowing them out because somewhere, hidden in America or abroad, were massive warehouses, one has to assume, filled with vehicles just like this, fitted with IFS1. This orientation here, this is IFS1. Well, of course, in between, Element came out with IFS2, and now this was purchased all at the same time because we do indeed. I just noticed that the screw has fallen out of the servo horn, and this thing still works. We'll have to put a screw in there before we go out. We have some prior experience with IFS2. We have a rig built called the Missing Link that has IFS2 in the front and trailing arms in the back. Element came out with the Zool 2 about 4 months after we built the Missing Link. So Element does it too now. Anyway, they were blowing out IFS1, and I had heard many tale of, IFS1 is a snow plow. It's going to be miserable. You're going to hate it. And you know what? IFS1 isn't that bad. Yeah. Does it bump steer? Oh my God. It bump steers horribly. And I would like to point out, this is with all upgraded parts. These are the Knight Industries parts. This is all STRC brass down here. It has the thing that lowers it. It has, like you can see how the front axle's up higher. It has all of the little tweaks and tunes to make IFS1 work better. And, you know, it's definitely okay. It's okay. You can tell that there was a bit of trash can engineering done when they designed this front end because they wanted to retain the use of a bunch of pieces that they already had. So this is just an Element front knuckle. So you can actually put a weighted knuckle on there. It's just exactly the same. The IFS2 was designed by Camberg, who make actual suspension. So it has its own proprietary knuckle. The shock is, what would this would be basically be double wishbone, because the shock goes down through the front, through the inside of the A-arm, rather than trailing behind the A-arm like that. There's nothing, and I mean this, and I state this in an entirely literal fashion, there's nothing that IFS2 does worse than IFS1. IFS1 is, I don't know if I want to go so far as to say poorly engineered. I was hoping that the introduction of independent front suspension would reward me with a rig that landed somewhere in between, like a full leafer, which is limiting yourself severely with effectively no down travel, limited up travel, limited compliance. I wanted the IFS to be somewhere in between. So my first Element experience was I bought one of these kits by itself, looked just like this, and I built up a rig out of those parts, and it was almost too capable, like uncomfortably so. So then when I wheeled this, I was like, oh yeah, that's almost kind of the spot. And then, as it do, familiarity begins to breed contempt. And you're watching the front end push. And you're watching that tire turned in, the tire that we just removed. So you're going around a corner, and oh, he's powered up. And you're at full lock like that, and you're just watching this tire just push along the ground. Because the way the front end transfers weight, and because of the quote-unquote geometry taking place in the front end. Like, you could have seen it when I picked it up. Right? It just goes full toe in, and there's nothing you can do. Like, this is minimized. It has all of the little bits and bobs on it, including there's a part up top. There's a 3D printed part up top. It's optimized IFS1, and it's still, I know without putting them together, it's not as good as this. So if something sits on the bench or on its little yoga block that it lives on for an extended period of time and doesn't get wheeled, sometimes there's a reason. And I think the reason here is that we got to the limit of where we could get on IFS1 rather quickly. The rest of the vehicle, I didn't want to re-oil and refill the shocks. These usually have the plastic-bodied shocks. I had a set from I want to say a Gatekeeper kit. But all I did was put the springs off of the factory shocks onto those. And these are now, I think these are MST, because I couldn't quite get the front rate after all the brass and stuff went on. Because IFS, it's not like a live axle. So this brass is effectively sprung. It's below the spring, but like we get that big sag in the front end. Anyway, what we're going to do, because I have gotten requested, it has been requested on multiple occasions, is folk want to see what this do, immediately followed by what this do. And we are in a perfect situation to do that. So we're going to do it like we're going to do it, which is we're going to take this out and we're going to drive it. We're going to wheel it around a little bit. We're going to come back in here. We're going to take this IFS1 off. We're going to put this IFS2 on, and then we're just going to do it again. And I am going to pretty much swap it straight over. So it will have these, actually they feel pretty good. There's a very heavy spring on the IFS setups, like almost 6 pounds an inch. So we're going to do that thing. The rest of it is hidden under here. There's a different skid. Everything you need to switch a rig over to IFS is included in the IFS2 box, including a big old sticker thing. So it's pretty straightforward, as I think even on the box somewhere, I think they call it, oh no, it just says IFS2 conversion. It's definitely not a kit because it's fully assembled. Has these neat little jack stand guys on there. We will run this around, and we will see. We will see what it do, and then, as I said, we'll just unbolt one front end and bolt the other front end up. This is the beauty of it. And if you don't see a difference, I will be very surprised, because, as mentioned, I had bought the kit, built the rig, I had prior experience with IFS2, so we're working forward/backward. I love this thing. This thing is great. It has Class 1 Louise mallets on it, and I swapped out the shocks and I put a Fusion SE in it. Oh, it does have, I had these in a bin. A buddy of mine owns an Ecto, and he bought Rock Pirate sliders and didn't pay attention when he clicked order, and he bought these giant sliders. So it has those sliders on it for no other reason than I went through the fleet and I looked at everybody sitting in their garages, and I was like, what do I have that will fit those Rock Pirate sliders? And it's just this. So in terms of structural changes made to this, we did all the tuning we could on IFS1, and we haven't really done anything else. It's a trail runner. It's a trail runner, absolutely. And it's great. I really like driving it. So the thing is, will she be pleased? Will we have pleased her? Will it spark joy in us to move? Basically, all right. It all comes down to the money, whether it's rainy or snowy or sunny. Pick this up for $275 RTR. There's like $150 worth of stuff, because we got wheels, tires, we got a Fusion. It's on I wish I could say that I spent money on a radio. This is the radio here. There are like 7 models programmed to this. So I try to avoid that in general, but she still hasn't even gotten her own radio. So, Ruby sitting in like 425, which is where a lot of RTRs will come out, and I don't have a problem with her performance. I don't, but at the same time, watch that push, I get a little plow in the front. Anyway, is it worth taking $100, throwing it on the front end? So, if these are still out there, I don't know if the world has sold out of trail runners. But what we were looking at was $275 for that and $100 for that. $375 is below the price of a lot of RTRs. And if you want IFS, I want to say that this is better at everything. In my recollection, it is better at everything. But I've never driven IFS1 and then removed it and put IFS2 on and done that. So, I don't know if that's why you're here, but that's why I'm here. So let's go do that. So it is, as they say, all coming back to me. We will actually, it's like Ruby is coming for Captain Hook. We'll get the tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. It's 100% from the front end. It's coming out of IFS1. The most rhythmic of clickings. Rest of it's pretty quiet. But here's the deal. In terms of like drive and the way that it performed, and even pushing ourselves through chopped up stuff, it's not bad. Still running 1887 gearing. Oh. Now here. Oh, thank you, Ruby. Illuminated for us. IFS1. Stability, sure. Like, look at that. Shouldn't be able to, right? Can move through rough terrain pretty well. Will just high belly like you're on a jet ski. All of a sudden, there's a hidden sandbar, and you're like, yeah, it will definitely do that. And just, we've got the TikTok, not that app with the short videos, but TikTok. We've got a real wobble, 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 and it didn't do that before all of the stuff to improve the performance of IFS1 went on there. Again, just fully high-bellied. Class 1. IFS1, it's not gonna, okay, will it hook across here? Not really. Like the part we just pushed out around the right-hand side of our left, camera left, should have been able to hook and pull in there. But the front end just floats away. So it is diminished performance on the one hand because we have less ground clearance. The front end just came to a stop right there. But like in terms of actual forward drive, it does pretty okay. Get around that. Gets a little slidey or a lot slidey. But if we can get up over this ledge, we can pull straight up. And there's a lot of rigs and a lot of tires that won't do that. So where it was lacking in performance, where it is lacking in performance is not in the areas that I was going to expect it to lack in performance. I was expecting like a big problem with we go straight at chop like this. And it doesn't have a problem. You do have to drive it a little more carefully because we got small tires. That's part of the small tire experience. But I never notice the front end really plowing in anywhere. I notice class 1s on I want to say it's a 12.8 wheelbase. Class 1s on a 12.8, you got a big belly in the middle. Big belly in the middle. So, I mean, optimally for a tire of this size, and this body is clearly intended to run a tire of this size, we'd like to see like 12 inches or less on the wheelbase, like an 11.4. It would make it a lot more maneuverable and alter the DNA of what it is. So what we want to do is we want to change the front end and see what that does to the overall performance characteristics of this, recognizing that when we're done, we're still operating within that limitation. It's IFS on class 1s. It's not whole hog. I can recall fairly clearly saying in the first couple episodes with Ruby here, telling people, if you're looking at getting into self-limitations, like you're thinking about a leafer, you're thinking about something scale, I had said that this is one of the perfect places to start because it has limitations, but not a limitation so extreme. If you just go from whatever you've got now, if you're a 4-link guy, if you're a servo and axle guy, if you've got these little advantages and you jump right into an RC 4-wheel drive Trail Finder 2, you're going to be like, skateboard, it has no compliance, the body is as heavy as a bomb, the handling goes right out of the proverbial window. And on this one it doesn't, to the degree. It's actually more capable in areas you wouldn't expect and far less capable in areas you wouldn't expect. And I've never, or I haven't up until what we're going to do in just a few minutes, gone through the work to determine how much of that limitation is IFS1. I'm trying to actually hang this out on the side and see where we get in terms of stability. Like, we've got a pretty low CG. It doesn't want to lift, but what it does want to do is there's the perfect front end push. It won't, there we go. It won't swing it around. You have to force it to swing it around. And some of the little cutbacks, some of the fallaways, slipper clutch. I think we opened the slip. Did we open the slipper clutch up? That's the universe's way of telling us the slipper clutch is open now. It's fun. And then, much like how a particular tire will exhibit a tendency to do really great, and then you just run out of traction suddenly and unpredictably, I feel like for me, for what I do, the fun kind of runs out on Ruby. She gets to a point, and then she turns into a mime. There's an invisible wall, and we can't get past that invisible wall. So if the IFS2 does nothing else, we hope for this. The TikTok goes away. It stops clicking, and the front end feels like that push is gone. You know, it's $100 for IFS2. Is it worth putting that $100 in there when you could spend the $100 elsewhere? Which is what I hope that we will find out fairly shortly. Do not let me forget. She sounds real bad. She sounds really, really bad. She needs to go to the bench. God, I hope that's slipper clutch. So she runs smoothly, if clickily, on the way back, and we determined on first lift to get her onto the bench what the sound was. Stay over there. Ooh. Spiderwebs. Brought to you by Spiderwebs. The pinion basically pushed the spur out of the way. So pushed it out of the way to such a degree that it kind of balded the spur right about there. We're going to have to dig around and get a 32 pitch. I've got plenty. So she's going to go to 32 pitch, which will bring the noise up. We'll bring the noise a little bit, but we should lose the TikTok, as the TikTok is definitely coming from the front end. Oddly, when I was wheeling her out for the first time, to me, it sounded like the gear mesh was too tight. It was definitely not. It was definitely not too tight. Well, that's a ball end. We don't need a ball end for this operation. I'm kind of just watching the clock. I'm absent-mindedly wondering to myself how long will the swap take? Take these out. I bounced it. And also nice of them, in the Camberg set, they give you bumper mounts. Like they don't need to do that. They don't need to do that. And one of my favorite parts about IFS2 as a thing is there's a complete. So this guy right here is a fake servo. Like that's why we can turn the rack. Can I see? Yeah, you can see it from the front. It's actually attached to a complete fake servo. They didn't need to do that either. And for where the delete plate would go, they give us 8 servo mounting screws. The only thing I would wish to see on the IFS2 is metal-bodied shocks. But I mean, I get it. It's actually, it's held on with a screw and everything. So we just swapped that over. Yeah, it's like a little fake servo. We just swapped that straight over, and then we're golden. Try to get as pit crew on as possible here. I want to leave basically everything attached that I can. Where does that go? Right to the bottom. Even new pins for the body mounts. I think we're right there. Yep. Close enough. If it's not close enough, it's close enough. Will I miss IFS1? Well, I don't know. For what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna bolt this thing straight up. Now, post mess about, what I would do is just swap shocks. Put the springs and cups and everything off of this shock onto those shocks, and then we're good to go. Let's hope that's right. Let's hope that's right. We'll pull the towers because they give us actual plastic. Now we can get the first. I find when I use my first IFS2 setup, I kept these for, I don't know, an indeterminate period of time until I was like, why are you keeping this? You can't. These aren't useful for anything. But what if they are? What if later I need those and I don't have them? Well, I have them again, but I'm pretty confident I'm not going to need them. Pull the bumper. There is going to be a pile 2 inches deep of M3 by 10 button heads. Then we got to pull these big long ones out of the Nike Customs. They're also holding the bumper on. So that comes off. And then I think all we will need to do is pull the front drive shaft. probably loosen this brace because we're kind of sandwiched. We're definitely going to have to cut those zip ties. Going pretty smoothly here, though, I must say. Cut these two. Might as well pull the servo. Little strip out there. No big deal. It only bounced a little. We are also well. I don't think it's gonna fit. I'm trying to think where the battery is gonna go. As IFS1 has this odd little layout where I want to say the intention is that be where you mount like a winch on this big flat area here, and I just used it for the servo. So worst case, we can just put it out on the slider. These rock powered sliders are plenty big enough. Who doesn't love a steel servo horn, which is going to slow us down. Woo! This should just pull forward. Oh, no, it should not. There is instructions. It does come with instructions. But I am never one to RTFM if I can avoid it. IFS1. I don't like that. That feels genuinely smooth. So, yeah, there's every chance that the clicking is not from the IFS. Just gotta get it open a little bit. There we go. Pop in. Pop in. I feel like I'm hanging up on something. I'm hanging up. There it goes. I was hanging up on something. I took a moment there of opportunity to... I thought there was a pin for a second. I took a moment of opportunity to get the bottom skid on, because whatever you do, install the drive shaft and put that skid on. Otherwise, everything will try to slip loose, and you'll get this whole thing bolted in place, and the drive shaft won't be attached. And the only way to get the drive shaft attached at that point is to take everything completely apart and do it again. Source. Done it. So I took a little me moment to take care of that. Now if we get this locked in and we get the shock towers on, we can easily mount the servo, quite easily. I will energize for that though, so that the servo is centered. And I might go so far as to double check to make sure that we're not running trim. So the steering on this, I don't know how well we'll be able to see it. Yeah, you can see it here from the front. So here's the horn, and the servo is transverse like this. So when the servo, it pushes the horn, and it's kind of almost like a bell crank system. But it's a horn pushing on a horn, pushing on two other horns. So in instances in the past where I've said that servo on axle is basically like effectively doubling your available servo torque because it's not fighting against geometry. So if you're not in a 3-link front end, you have the panhard, and the panhard is keeping the front end oriented. So your steering servo effectively, not effectively, it actually has to push against the panhard. The panhard, because the servo, because you've got a, I'm getting in the weeds. The drag link and the panhard are parallel to each other. So when you're pushing the steering, here's the panhard here. The panhard is stopping the axle from moving side to side. So when the steering link is pushing, the panhard is being like, no, you can't push the axle, just turn the tire at the same time. So you have to overcome that geometry. It's triangles fighting triangles. This is a linkage comes forward and then goes to a point, and that's pushing, and then there are two more linkages with points. So it's a triangle fighting a triangle, fighting a triangle, fighting a triangle, fighting a triangle, fighting a triangle. So the torque and the throw is, it automatically feels like you've lost torque as soon as you mount the servo up. This front end, and it will be a lot easier to actually do this with the servo installed, because we can exhibit it a little better, I think. I just want to make sure that's straightened. And we'll even go to sub-trim while we're here. Plus 17. Which I would have been like, why is this servo not centering? Servo goes here. We can pull the horn up. We can get it mostly straight. That looks fine. And because, I need an 8. Because of the way they orient it, a lot of front ends are a real pain in the tuchus to work on. Like if I needed to get that horn attached. It's not really a problem here. We set it in there, and we will be running a tiny little bit of trim. A little bit of sub trim to get it perfectly straight. No two servos want to act alike, so it's gonna be to one side or the other. We only have 25 splines. We've got 25 splines in 360 degrees, so that's 4, 8, 12, 13, 14. So we're at like 14 degrees and change per tooth. That's a lot. I'm not applying for 100 spline or 360 spline servos, but it would make it a lot easier to get things centered. You can see that we are definitely trended that way. So it's plus. Looks like we're going to go plus trim about 30 points maybe. So what Camberg has opted for here, because they know what they're doing, is it is quite literally rack and pinion. I don't know if you can see, there's a little glimmer of brass under there. It is a rack. So the horn comes out, attaches to a drag link, and the drag link pushes and pulls a rack. And because we've still got that little bit of we've got that trim. Still looks like, it looks like a tiny little bit of toe in, and we've got fixed links here. But it's let's look at the angle of that. It's just straight up and down. So the bump steer, this one is straighter on this side. The bump steer is gone. It's absolutely gone. I'm wondering, okay. We're going to have another, there'll be another quiet moment here where I dig through a bin to find one of those little plastic delete plates that goes right here, and then we can just slap the servo right next to the battery right next to the servo, and vice versa. Yeah, I mean, we could honestly just throw a strap around it and have it in place. I do have this is an STRC front bumper mount. It's aluminum. I like it better because for this application, I think, click. We have a lot riding on this up front. Okay, I have two very long screws. Where did that come from? I have two very long screws. Is it these guys? Yeah. Because in the front, what's holding the IFS on is also holding the bumper on. Well, that's way longer. I'm missing a screw or two here. No, I'm not. So we rejoin again for a moment, the mental breakdown already in progress. The installation of this was not a problem. It is a bolt-on. I got to the STRC brace here, what is replacing this. I couldn't get the screw holes to line up. I had to re-tap a couple of the holes to get the screws to go in. So nothing to do with the element, nothing to do with the IFS2. Everything to do with, I guess, the STRC parts. We've got the little, I mentioned the little tray, the little flat delete piece to put the battery on. So this little bin right here says element parts. I emptied this out, completely emptied it out, went through all of it, couldn't find it. Said, I know that it's in there. I know that it's in there. Emptied it all out. Took, like, so had all the parts, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not in there. And I go like this. And I'm grabbing the last piece, and I go, and it's sitting, like, right there. And I was like, well, that's it. Either there are gremlins in here, or I'm losing my mind at a rate far faster than ordinary. It's too early in the day to have lost my mind to this point. Then, while it's still sitting here, I got the battery. I couldn't find a strap that was the right length. I was like, we need to do this before it's 125 degrees outside. So I get it thrown in there. I get it bodged together. I set my endpoints. Endpoints look fine. I get to the process of swapping out the spur. We've gone to 32 pitch. I did the math. We were running 1878, which is a 4.33 to 1. And see, so that I don't try to keep this, it is right there. Just right there. It doesn't even really look like anything. It just smeared the tops off of those teeth. That is unfortunate because that is, as you can see, a brand new Kimbrough spur gear. These are the things that happen. So I dug through my 32 pitch. That is a 56 tooth. 4.33 to 1 is 12.94 teeth. So they decide to bite me one more time. One more time. Because the only 13 tooth, 32 pitch, 3mm bore pinion I have is that, which is a stock axial pinion. And I don't like them. I don't like how they have the big butt. The only thing I do like about them is that they use a 2mm wrench to tighten down the set screw. I'm not opposed to that at all. So I get the new set screw. I get the set screw in there. I get the spur mounted, making sure the slipper plates are engaged. I get everything in there, and then we find out a thing. And the thing that we have found out is leading me to, where's the bag? Is there not there? There's definitely documentation with this, right? Yes. Supplement. Let me crack into the supplement here. Don't cut yourself, don't cut yourself, don't cut yourself. You just say the mantra. When you're on the grinder, you say, don't get my eye, don't get my eye. You wear your safety squints, but you tell it not to get in your eye. Okay. Conversion kit, remove the hardware shown from both sides. Whole bunch of, yeah, there's a screw mountain down here, and we don't reuse any of them because they're already on the rig. We're just reusing those. It is just these 2 pages. Remove the yada yada that connects the servo horn to the servo blank. Save the hardware for installation on your chassis. Install the skid plates with 2 3x10. You are now ready to install the IFS to your chassis. So they're basically, this is just telling you how to unbox your IFS. Now, I don't recall if this happened to me before in the last instance of installing IFS2, but you saw me take this off. You saw everything was hunky-dory. Can anyone detect a problem? Are there any problems here? This is normal, right? Tank mode? We're just doing tank mode. Now, it's an element axle. This is how I have to tighten the pinion gear down. Yeah. This is not a problem. It's an element axle. All I have to do is unmount the wheels, take the set screws off on their end, slide the stubs out, remove this cover, flip the ring gear over, and we're all going the same direction. I don't recall, in my past, anyone ever mentioning, oh, by the way, IFS2 rotates the opposite direction of IFS1. Or vice versa? Yes. This is now rotating. This is not smart. But what's the worst that can happen, right? Well, we see where the amount of drive is. Whee! All right, I'm not a mathematician. Never would I claim to be. Nice and quiet, though. The click is definitely gone. What I will say is that this right here, is that 200% dig? Because I don't think we're pulling up over any rocks in that configuration as the rear axle is actually rotating the opposite direction. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to fix that. I'm telling you all out there, this is turning into what we in the industry, and that is the industry of making things. A buddy of mine and I have long had a thing where we ask, hey, how did that, whatever it is, that part doesn't matter. Hey, how did that thing go? And the response is often, oh, you know, it turned into a thing. This has definitely turned into a thing because I also have to unbolt these clamping hexes. And then those screws, slide those. Yeah, it's 5 minutes. But it's also 5 minutes. Now, in case you were never thinking of even asking, did I get into a semi-unprompted argument with myself about the trajectory of my life during this? Yeah, because I was self-illuminating as we progressed further. I was starting to, like when the dude, when he starts to see the code of the matrix and he starts to see the pictures coming down in the green, I'm sitting there and I'm flipping the screws. I'm pulling the screws so I can flip the ring gear and get the axles to rotate in the correct orientation. And I go, yeah, but they were rotating in the correct forward orientation before, which now that means the motor is rotating backwards. So you're going to have to grab your program card and flip your motor around so it's rotating the other direction. Was there another way to go about this? Yes. That would be to flip the gear in the front. Was it assembled backwards when they sold it to us, not as a kit, but as a fully assembled thing? Maybe. Because if we don't flip that gear, and I had just installed this, the front end feels amazing. I didn't want to pull that out to flip that gear. It's still easier to flip that gear and then grab the program card and reverse motor rotation. It's still easier and quicker. It's very... Is this a perception thing? It's like surging. I'm just looking down. Okay, all the drive pins are installed. All the wheel hexes are in. We're not... nobody's drive pin fell out. Our mesh... Oh, I need a little bit. Yeah, mesh is good. I like, not that much. That's the play in between the teeth. You just don't want the teeth bottomed out. No. It seems absolutely good enough. So I can't say with any degree of certainty to anyone. Okay, now where are the front body posts? I'm starting to feel that on more than one level, this vehicle is actively resisting being switched to IFS2. Everything is better. In terms of bench feel, the springing is better, the side to side is better. The wheel, the tire is like 2 or 3 millimeters further forward than it was before. It would hit right here all the time. So, and endpoints, you take about 20% out of your endpoints. So, this should be a net sum positive. It should. We've had some sticky issues. The diff flip was the one I did not anticipate. I could not, would not, and still would not anticipate to see that coming. So please do in the comments. Anyone who has done a 1 to 2 swap, let me know if your experience was the same. Did you have to flip a ring gear and reverse your motor? You shouldn't. There's nothing that I could have done. I got a real Captain Kirk. There's nothing that I could have done. I just swapped the front end. We didn't mess with the gearbox. We didn't mess... Well, I mean, changing the spur and pinion's not going to reverse the rotation. 32 pitch gears don't rotate the opposite direction of 48 pitch. That defecates on science and physics. So, let's go do what we did before. Mush it around. And see if this little descent into madness bears fruit that when we crack them open, don't have more madness on the inside. So try to take into account wherever we are at this point. The only change made was going IFS1 to IFS2. It's the same wheels, the same inserts, the same gearing, or as close as humanly possible, because we went from 1878 48 pitch to 1356 32 pitch, which is a change in ratio of, to get an exact 433 external, we would need to run at 12.89 tooth pinion, and we're running a 13. So it's close. Like a 12 would be reducing the gear a lot. It just tracks straighter. It just tracks straighter on the way out here. Want to see how I feel about the drive over here. Now, I'm all but certain we've lost weight, and I rescind that. I am certain that we have lost front weight because we had a bunch of STRC brass on the bottom of the IFS1. And we can tell right here, okay, that's just hung up on the rear. We can tell right there that brass was helping. That little slide over right there. Now we were definitely benefiting from that brass. So all we have left, because the fruit smells a little bit like madness. What we're hoping for now is an overall quality of life. So we're going to have no bump steer. We have none. The suspension action is so much better. I don't feel like I could make a direct comparison. The direct comparison here is also some of the parts. No, all of the parts that had been contributed to the IFS1 setup came in via donation. Someone mailed me the Knight Customs 3D printed parts. Someone sent in the STRC brass. So I had no real feeling of investment into the IFS1. But there's probably enough money, time, and material in the IFS1 to actually bring it to or above the cost of just putting in an IFS2 setup. Okay, once again, the Velcro. We've got a little bumper feature there. And of course, I drive over here to fix the battery. So downside, I don't know if I can find an upside. The reason the battery didn't fall out all the way is because the balance plug got tangled up in the steering rack. Yeah, that weight in the front was helping more than I can emphasize. Right there, all we get is skate. And if we get out further, we still skate. So no, it is the fruit, as we expect around here. Oh, there's a rearview mirror on the ground. Sweet. Bears only madness. As I sit here desperately, searching for the ROI, for the return on investment. I know from experience, empirically, that IFS1 is superior to IFS2. it does everything better. I have a vehicle fitted with IFS2 that works amazing. This change that we've spent some good portion of the morning on is not an improvement. So we can't unring the bell. I can't go back to the experience of IFS1 without the Night Customs, without the STRC brass pieces. They had improved the IFS1 to a point where it was honestly pretty good. This feels like starting over. Would I feel the same way about the Trail Runner had the Trail Runner come out of the box with IFS2? Oh, there you go. We were doing a little bit of negging to try to get this thing to do something, anything. It is a quality of life improvement, unquestionably. But it doesn't reinvent the experience. If you're coming directly from stock IFS1, I think you're going to notice the changes in IFS2 more. If you've done the Night Customs, if you've done putting some brass, STRC brass on there, if you've done any sort of amount of work to your IFS1 system, it's probably not worth the time nor the money to put IFS2 on it. That's just one lunatic's opinion. But I sacrificed, in the old meme, what did it cost you? Everything. Okay, that's not absolutely accurate. That's not entirely accurate. Compliance, much better. All right. Let's put it this way. If you are using it's right there on the tailgate, Trail Runner. If you're using this for less pure rock crawling duty, and this is speaking in terms of modified IFS1 versus pull it out of the box IFS2. The IFS2 is going to be better. Your steering response is better. Your stability is better. And stability, I mean in terms of steering. I don't mean in terms of we really messed with the front to rear ratio and we really messed with low weight. We have less low weight now, and it is noticeable. Generally, she doesn't land on a roof all that much, and I've been on the roof 4 times today. Forward drive is diminished slightly, the IFS2 versus IFS1, modded IFS1. That's already further into that line than I thought it would go. But this is the complaint I had about IFS1. It will get to a point and then you completely run out of drive. Well, IFS2 doesn't cure that. You still get to a point of drive and then you don't have any more. The loss of the brass weight is, for me, for what I do, for what I'm doing right now, the loss of that weight is, I don't know if I can come back from it. This is a less gooder rock crawler now. It's lighter. I mean, I can feel it when I pick the thing up. It is unquestionably lighter. But I'm not putting that mirror back on ever. The driver's side mirror has fallen off 4 times today. Where we've shed weight is not where you want to shed weight. So there was something that I had said on the bench about, will she be satisfied? Would it spark joy? And I can't speak with pure and true objectivity, because my frame of comparison was going from modified, which I didn't even understand at the time, but heavily modified IFS1 to IFS2. I wouldn't make the trade. I did, and now we get to live with it. And I will figure out what tuning and modifications and changes are required to get the IFS2 just back to the level of heavily modified IFS1. So if you're operating from a position of you have no modifications in your IFS1 setup, you're probably honestly just better off buying an IFS2 and going from that, right? Work your modifications from there. I think in the end, the capability of a vehicle with independent front suspension, 2, your ceiling is higher than it is with 1. You will get, because this is, weight aside, the loss of that brass, like this turn-in right here, IFS1 can't, just simply won't do that. Even with the brass, it will slur that front end over. I'm trying not to be disappointed in it because I want every instance of putting a modification, which on some level has a visible or an invisible dollar sign hanging above it. Just going to hang out right there for a minute. ROI, man, return on investment. And based on that investment of $100 and then the time, which we will discount the time, I wanted to see it be like, oh yeah, baby, that is better. The steering is significantly better. The action of the suspension is incomparably better. The rock crawling performance, the overall performance of Ruby, the Element Trail Runner as a package, I would go ahead and say did not improve. It got worse. It was better at rock crawling with a brass-fitted Knight Customs modified IFS1 than it is with an IFS2. I do think that we can get further with the IFS2, but just be aware, if you take away only but a few things here, let lead among those things that there is every chance you're going to have to flip your ring gear in the rear and reverse your motor direction for whatever reason. Otherwise, you will just sit in one place and spin. Maybe in a circle? I guess you could spin it. If you throttled it up enough, you'd go in a circle, right? Tank mode. And also, if you do opt to make the switch from IFS1 to IFS2, don't expect it to be earth-shattering. It's not like, if we're still speaking about the Trail Runner, which were basically NOS, and came with Reedy SC480X and the Reedy Crawler's 16-turn 540, and respectively. If you remove those and replace them with a $69.99 Fusion, you'll go, whoa, because you can do this. That right there is ROI. The expenditure of those Louise mallets over the included Class 1 General Grabbers is a return on investment, is a whoa, that just got better. IFS2 is quality of life stuff. It works better. It does not have bump steer. It has better travel. It has better approach angle. It has, I'm pretty sure it has better breakover. I didn't feel the belly going in at stuff as much as I did before. It has improvements in all of that. It's also lighter than a modified one. It's better than a stock one. I just want to show maybe things that people might not initially think about. You might just think, well, 2 is better than 1. And in most performance categories, that is true. But if you have put any money into your IFS1, I would say stick with it. If you happen to buy an inexpensive Trail Runner when they went on sale, yeah, buy a Fusion and new tires. Long before you even consider going to IFS2. IFS2 on its own is not enough. That ROI is not good enough to warrant replacing the IFS1 with it, in my opinion. Now, if you're building something from scratch with independent suspension, just buy don't go out looking for a used IFS1. Just buy an IFS2. This has just been cruise control this whole time at 14%. So this is Ruby, the trail runner, rock crawling all by herself. I've had the controller's been like this, just been hanging out of my hand, and she's just doing it. So sometimes slow and low is the way to go. I think it would be a perfect outro capper if she somehow managed to pull over that ledge. I don't think she can. The breakover is not a world beater. We'll give her like 3% more. The breakover is not earth shattering. 12.8 wheelbase and class 1s. But hop doesn't look too bad. So to IFS2 folk who came here for that confirmation bias, what have been your approaches to get a little bit more low weight up in the IFS2 setup in the front in order to keep that nose down, to get a little more rock crawling capability out of it? Because I'm interested. The knuckle is unique so far as I can tell, so we can't just throw a knuckle on there. If there's an IFS2 knuckle out there, I would like to know. I would like to find that out. I'm coming to grips with the fact that we get to start over. We had tuned the IFS1, and now we have to do the same thing to IFS2 to get us back to where we once were. And unfortunately, with that body in the position we're in right now, I can't even reverse out of this because the bumper will just stick in. I'm giving her a little steer help here. Maybe we can get out of this if we go to this side. No. And we end like that. As with many things in life, it is not a pure and simple instance of black and white where, oh, IFS2 is just better than IFS1. On paper it is. On the bench it is. Out here in the hand-fabricated, air quotes, real world, it is not remotely that clear. Would I take IFS2 over IFS1? I'm not doing all that work to put IFS1 back on. This is how she lives now, and we will deal with the consequences of that in the near and or far future. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do lodge them in the comments section below. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us here today in the canyon for whatever this was. I invite you to tune in and see whatever we have coming up next. I try to make some small effort to not instruct people how to spend their money, but if you have a trail runner, the first thing you should buy is a Fusion SE, a 1200 kV Fusion SE, and it might honestly be enough for you to go, oh, okay, I'm done here. IFS1 is just fine. I don't know. I had hoped for more. I don't know what you had hoped for. I hope we got to some small level of conclusion. I look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future. I hope that in between now and then you one and all do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. We will see you again here from the canyon, hopefully. And until then, be good. Use soap.